What's up, kiddos? Trowbro is back with another e-learning with Trowbro, and today we're going to be kicking off our summer vacation with drawing somebody who spends a lot of time in the water. That's right, SpongeBob SquarePants himself. And I happen to be a big fan of SpongeBob, as you can see right here. Now, when I was younger, I know my brother and sister, they weren't allowed to watch SpongeBob because my parents thought it was a very stupid cartoon. And maybe some of your parents are thinking the exact same thing, and you're like, Mr. Trowbridge, you're about to draw something that I'm not even allowed to watch. And I would just say to you that I understand that sometimes you can't watch everything, but it's still good to learn how to draw. Sometimes artists get paid to draw things they have no interest in whatsoever. So drawing and looking at things is always a great way to improve your artistic skills. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, like all of my videos, I'm going to start with my picture of SpongeBob, and I have drawn all the simple shapes that I see, the biggest ones that make up his body and his arms and his feet. After that, I'm going to try to copy those shapes over here on the right side with my pencil. And remember, the key is drawing very lightly because we're going to have to erase a lot of these lines. So just draw very lightly the basic shapes of SpongeBob's head, his torso, his hands, and his feet. Now sometimes there's a little bit of confusion on why we put that plus on our drawings, and that is to help us make sure that things are lined up, to make sure that eyes and nose and mouths are in the right spot. So that's going to help me draw SpongeBob's face later on. Now SpongeBob's arms and legs are really simple to draw. They're basically just really long rectangles, and then at the end of them you have like little bitty balls for his hands, and his feet are kind of like two of them. They look kind of like dinner rolls to me. Now the reason why I always hide the actual drawing is because I want you guys, when you look at something and you want to draw it, that you're trying to see the shapes that make up the thing. So I don't want to look at all those crazy details that SpongeBob has. I want to break him down and see how he is made with the shapes that the artist chose to design him with. Once I have those basic shapes drawn out, that's when I go in and I start drawing the next detailed shapes that I see. And so after I draw where his shirt and pants are, then I start going up to his face. And the biggest shapes, the easiest ones that really stick out are his eyes, because his eyes are just basic big circles right next to each other, and that's a really simple shape to draw. And after his eyes, I'm going to draw his cheek right there, that red cheek, and then draw his mouth. Now, if you look at his mouth, right underneath his eyes, it kind of makes a triangle shape. Now, I'm going to ignore his nose for now, because I just want to make sure that I'm getting that triangle shape right. And sometimes as I'm drawing, I'll realize that I drew it like the wrong size, and I'll correct it as I see it. If I look at shapes and I compare them to other shapes, I'm like, oh, it shouldn't stick out that far, or it's too long. I'll go ahead and erase it and fix lines that I think that I drew wrong. That's why I'm always drawing light, because I do make mistakes sometimes. Now SpongeBob's mouth is basically kind of like a U shape. It looks kind of like a cup. And then that plus that I drew is really helpful when I'm drawing his teeth. So I know that they're simple rectangles, but that plus will kind of help me because I know where to draw the teeth in relationship to that cross. And then his nose is kind of like a hot dog shape, and his pupils are more circles. I'm just drawing the shapes that I'm seeing. Before going down to his body, don't forget to do the chin line. Now what I like about SpongeBob's shirt and pants is they're very easy shapes to draw. His collar and his tie are basically triangles, and his belt are just rectangles, so it shouldn't take you very long to draw. Alright, as I'm making my way down his legs, I'm going to draw his socks, those two little stripes, and not to forget those little glares that I see on his shoes. Alright, now on to the hands, the thing that most artists hate drawing because they are complicated. But hopefully those little balls that we drew will make it a little bit easier. Off of this one on his hand, you know, his little thumb and his fingers are basically kind of like little hot dog shapes. And you just got to make sure that you're drawing the closest one to you first, because you see all of it. And then after that you draw the next one right behind it, and it's a little bit smaller. You don't see it because it's overlapping. And especially his last one, you see very little of it. Now as I get more confident and I know that it's the right line, I might push a little bit harder on my pencil to make sure the line is dark. Now drawing his sleeve on his other hand, if you look, his arm is going into his shirt. So the yellow is coming out of that little line, so don't forget to draw that. Now this hand, I'm going to start with his pinky, because if you look, it's kind of like a spiral shape. It kind of goes around and then comes back in, and then his thumb is kind of the same but comes from an opposite direction. Make sure you're looking at those shapes. And then after you get the pinky and the thumb, his next finger and then his pointer finger are a little easier to draw. That pointer finger looks like another hot dog shape. Now you've probably noticed that a lot of cartoon characters that we draw, they only have 4 fingers instead of 5. I think that's just because it's easier to animate, you know, 1 less finger to draw. Now going down to his shoes, don't forget to draw his heels. They're kind of like little rectangles, and there's like that little triangle shape that goes underneath right there, that little gray shape. So don't forget to do that. I'm gonna kind of go over my lines, darken them because I know that they are correct. Alright, now that I know that SpongeBob's body is basically done, I'm going to go in there and draw all those spots that SpongeBob has over his body. Now it's really important as an artist that you count and see how many spots he has and where. Even though you know he has spots, you don't just draw them randomly. The artist has specifically designed his spots exactly where they are. So he's got 4 here, 2 here, 1 here. Make sure you're counting and trying to draw them exactly how you see them. No shortcuts. Alright, I think the last thing to do is SpongeBob's eyelashes. And they're kind of like really long rectangles that get a little fatter at the end. Alright, now looking at my SpongeBob, he's basically done. So now my goal is to go over all the lines that I know are correct, a little bit darker, and I'm also going to start erasing lines. So like, if I see a line that I drew that doesn't need to be there, I need to make sure that I'm erasing it. So hopefully you drew very lightly with your pencil. That means you're not pushing down too hard. Once you know a line is correct or a shape is correct, that's when you know it's okay to draw darker. Art is all about refining, going over and going over. Kind of like when you're playing with clay and you're molding it slowly and surely into the shape that you want it to be in. I'll go in and color things dark that need to be dark, shade in things, erase things, until it looks just like the drawing that I see on the other side. Alright, now my SpongeBob is still kind of rectangular, and looking at the one on the left, I can see that they're kind of curvy, little wavy lines that go around the shape of his spongy body. Now, just like his spots, you need to make sure you're not just drawing super wavy. I'm kind of looking and seeing how many waves I see on each part of his body to make sure that I'm not drawing too many waves or too little waves. Alright, now I'm really close to getting this SpongeBob SquarePants drawing finished. What I want to do is go around and make sure I'm still darkening any of the lines that are correct, erasing any lines that I don't want to see, and then I also want to kind of shade things in. If something's supposed to be black, I'm going to shade it in black. If it's supposed to be a little bit darker, like his spots or the inside of his mouth, I'm going to shade that in too. Maybe I don't push down as hard on my pencil, make it a little bit grayer or darker. That's balance of value. Alright, we have light and dark, and we want to have an equal scale of each one of them. Alright, that's what makes our drawings appealing to look at. And I am almost done. And there you have it, SpongeBob SquarePants. That is a good looking drawing. Well kiddos, I hope you had fun drawing SpongeBob SquarePants. If you take a picture of your drawing and email it to me right here at my email address, I will feature it on my next e-learning with Trowbro video next week. And speaking of which, here are some of the drawings of Bugs Bunny that we did last week.